So this is a short video going into just how to bake the light information into a texture so that we can actually then apply that to a material and not have to worry too much about using the lights to really influence the scene. So I've got a very simple scene set up here. I've got just a subject, which in this case is my little sphere here. And then I've got 4 coloured walls and a roof just to influence the colour around the scene. And I've also got 2 lights in the scene. I've got 2 point lights, one that's giving you a main cast light from the top and one that's just illuminating around the back. So now I'm happy with this, so what I want to do is start baking all this information to a texture. So I've got, I did do a bit of UV unwrapping on these. These are very simply done because I just need to show you how to do this. I don't need to show you how to unwrap, because as soon as your UVs are done, you don't need to worry about it. So I've got my 2 objects UV'd. So now I'm going to bake the surrounding light information to this sphere texture, and then I'm going to do the same for the walls and floors. There is ways of making this like what we call batch rendering all this sort of information, but for small little scenes like this, I'm just going to show you how to do it a really quick and really easy way using the utilities menu. So first of all, I'm going to do a save just to make sure if anything does go wrong, I can come back very quickly. So I'll bake example. There we go. And you'll have a scene set up already with your paths going to your images folder or your rendering folder, wherever Maya wants to dump this image we're going to make in a second. So once we're ready, I'm going to first do my sphere. So with that selected, I'm going to come up to the top menu here, making sure I'm in modeling. I'm going to come up to Arnold, drop that down, and then I'm going to go to utilities. And then here I'm going to go to render selection to texture. So I've got this object selected, so I'm going to click this, and this gives us this small window. So this output folder, I'm going to just put on my desktop, like that. My resolution is my pixel size, so I want it to be quite big, so I'm going to go for 2048. And then this camera samples A8 is just how higher quality the output's going to be, so I'm going to set that to 4. I'm going to click render. So this might take a little bit of time, but when it's finished, it'll create a texture on your where you've directed your render to pump it out. So for me, it's going to be on the desktop. So there we go. So once our render is done, it puts it out on our desktop or wherever we put it. It's an EXR file, so it won't be a JPEG or a PNG or anything like this. But in this case, this is the image I got. So you can see quite clearly that we are mimicking, or we're getting reflections of the surrounding area. So if I just get my render up again, see here we've got the blue, the red, and the green. It's having a reflective. It's actually reflecting on the actual sphere. So in Photoshop, we're getting this. We're getting our actual reflections being baked on there. So now I'm going to do the same thing for the background, and then basically what I'm going to do is take this, duplicate over to the side, apply a flat color to it, or a flat material, and then reapply these colors, these new textures, and show you the sort of quality we can get. So both our renders are done now. So I'll actually go back to Photoshop and show you what this now looks like. So remember, it's not a JPEG or a Targa. It's going to be something called the EXR file, which is probably that one. No. There we go. So this is the basically the environment information that's been baked into mine. So you can actually see this here is going to be the ground plane, and you can see where actually the sphere is actually touching the ground, which is cool. So I'm going to now save both these out as a JPEG. I could probably apply the EXR as a file, but I wanted to put these as a JPEG and actually put a black background behind both of them. There we go. And save that as a JPEG. Call that my enviro example. And then do the same thing for my sphere. So I'm having to change the mode from 32-bit to 16-bit. So here we go, save. Sphere example. There we go. So now we go back into Maya. I'm going to duplicate this over entirely. So we got this. So I'm going to apply a new material, just a Lambert material to the sphere. And then I'm going to put in that texture. That's looking okay. Well, there's a little bit of issue up here at the top. And do the same down here. There we go. So now this is our scene just with the flat colours. No lighting impacting. Well, there is obviously the render lighting, but there's no real lighting information in the scene. This is our scene as it's been rendered and lit, and we've basically taken all that lighting information and then applied it as a physical texture, and it looks much more realistic, much more believable, just like this. Now, there's things that I probably fix, and you probably won't come up against these just because of the way you've textured them. But I would go back into Photoshop and I would probably fix these areas here, the lines, just by simply just nudging the pixels over and smudging that area. Like I said, when you've got better UVs, you get a lot less of this sort of information. But that's a simple process of just taking the lighting information from one object and baking it in. Now, one thing that we do have to remember is if we were having multiple objects in the scene, each one of these objects would need to have its own texture applied. We can't just take the texture information from one and then expect the other barrel with the same material to carry the same the correct information, not necessarily the same information. I will show you an example of this in class, if I've not already done that. So yeah, every one of these assets will need to have its own textures applied to it after the render is done. Okay, so that's simple. Just taking the light information from your Arnold render, utilities, and then rendering that light into a usable texture, which you can then take into a game engine to help with running the scene, taking a lot of stress off the actual engine, or taking it into an animation to again do the same thing. You know, there's lots of different uses for these. Okay.